Hi everyone, this is Chelsea from The Crafter Life. Thank you for purchasing my Witch Legs scarf patterning video. In this video, I will walk you through my pattern so you can crochet the entire project along with me or use it as needed. I know sometimes certain places in written patterns may be confusing, so hopefully this video serves to clear up any difficulties you may encounter. This video will show me making an adult size scarf. If you want to make the child size, you will need to use a size 4 needle or whatever size hook you need to obtain the gauge indicated for the child size scarf. Okay, so here is a finished adult size scarf. This is the first one that I made, and I did it in black and orange. For this video, I'm going to actually be using green and black yarn, and it's the Red Heart Super Saver. You'll also need, if you're making the adult size, a size 5 hook, 5.00 millimeter hook, a tapestry needle for sewing and weaving in your ends, possibly some stitch markers for the end when we trim around the shoe, and also if for your shoelaces you choose to use ribbon, you might want to get some decorative ribbon if you don't choose to crochet your shoelaces. Before we start, make sure to familiarize yourself with the abbreviations in the pattern. This pattern is mainly made of basic chains and single crochets. Make sure to keep a measuring tape or ruler handy to check the gauge as you go. For the adult size scarf, 8 single crochets should be about 2 inches across. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 inches across. And every 4 rows completed should have a height of about 1 inch. Each stripe here is 3 rows, so then an extra one makes 1 inch. So always check that as you work to make sure you're obtaining the correct gauge. We will be starting working with the striped body of the scarf, and we will be cutting the yarn after each color change, so make sure you have your scissors handy. Okay, so row 1 says with your chosen main color, which is going to be designated MC in the pattern, chain 13. So again, I'm using Red Heart Super Saver in the color Spring Green for my main color in this video. You can use whatever color you want. For the orange scarf that I showed earlier, I actually used Red Heart Super Saver in Pumpkin, so you can use that one or whatever color. Just it would be best if you keep your main color yarn the same brand at least as your black yarn, just so it looks uniform at the end. And definitely make sure it's worsted weight yarn that you're using. Okay, so now we can begin by making our chain 13 for row 1. So the first thing we have to do is make a slip knot. Okay. And now we have to chain 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so we have our chain 13, and now we have to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So that will be this stitch right here. Here's our first chain, there's the second, so that's the one we want to single crochet into first. And then we're also going to single crochet in each remaining chain across. So going into the second chain from the hook, single crochet 1, and then we're going to single crochet in each of the remaining chains across. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then after you've single crocheted across, you should have 12 single crochets in row 1, and then you're going to chain 1 and turn and get ready to begin row 2. Okay, so row 2 says to single crochet in each stitch across. So starting in the first stitch, we're going to put a single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we should have, if you've single crocheted in each stitch across, again, you should have another row of 12 single crochet, and then at the end of your row, you're going to chain 1 and turn and get ready for row 3. Okay, so row 3 says to single crochet in the next 11 stitches, and then we're going to make our color change at the end of the 12th stitch. So if we single crochet in the next 11 stitches, we'll start in this first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so now row 3 says to begin the single crochet in the 12th stitch and joining, pulling through black once you have 2 loops of the main color on the hook to complete the single crochet. So some of you probably already know how to change colors this way, but if you don't, what you do is you start the single crochet as normal in this last stitch. So you go ahead and you insert your hook through the stitch and yarn over and pull through. So now we have 2 loops of your main color on the hook, and then what we do is we actually grab our black yarn and we use that to complete the single crochet. So we're just going to pull the black yarn through just as if we would pull the main color yarn through to complete the single crochet. And so you have something like this. So then you can go ahead and pull the tail end of your green yarn down to kind of tighten that up. And then you might want to pull the black yarn down a little closer if you can. And then find the tail of the black yarn, and what I do is I try to make sure I kind of almost like lock it in, so wherever the tail is, I make sure that when I go ahead to complete my chain at the end of the row, I'm almost locking it in, and then I go ahead and do my chain with that and pull that tight. So now I'm ready to go ahead and turn my work and start row 4. Okay, so now on row 4 it says to single crochet in each stitch across. So when we do that, we'll end up with 12 single crochet and with our black yarn. But before I do that, I just wanted to mention, if this bothers some of you that we have like a tail of yarn here and you like to carry your yarn under your work, that's fine. You can just place your stitches over top of that yarn to kind of lock it in more in this row. But I'm going to choose to just let mine hang, and then in a little bit we'll take our tapestry needle and weave it in. But let's go ahead and do row 4. So single crochet in each stitch across, starting with the first stitch. Here's 1 single crochet, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then we're on 12. A piece of hair right there. Okay, and then we'll chain 1 and turn our work and begin row 5, which is the same thing. We're just going to single crochet in each stitch across, so we should have 12 single crochets at the end of this row. So starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And now we're on row 6. So we're going to single crochet in the first 11 stitches. This is the color changing row. So that last stitch we're gonna finish with our main color. So we'll do the first 11 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11, and then I'm going to stop here for just a second because before we can do the 12 stitch we need to make sure we have our main color yarn ready to go, which in my case is my green yarn. So we need to cut that last tail off of our main color so we can go ahead and join it to this last stitch of this row. So I'm going to go ahead and again the way I do it is I insert my hook just like I'm doing a single crochet under the stitch, yarn over and pull through, and then stop when you have your 2 loops on the hook. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my main color yarn and pull it through to complete the single crochet. And then again I always pull my this tail down to tighten it to the black tail. And then I'm going to go ahead and I want to lock in my green or my main color tail, so find out where that is, and I'm going to like overlap it on top of this, my open-ended yarn, and then yarn over and pull through, and then I can go ahead and pull this tail down to kind of pull that a little tighter. And then I go ahead and turn my work, and I'm ready to start the next row, which is row 7. Okay, so row 7, we are going to single crochet in each stitch across. So single crochet in this first stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn to start row 8, which is also just row 8 is just a single crochet in each stitch across again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oops, do that one again. 11, 12. And then again, we're gonna chain 1 and turn. And then starting with row 9, which is a color changing row. So we're gonna single crochet in the first 11 stitches. And then at the end of that 12th stitch, we're gonna change our color back to black. So starting in the first stitch, single crochet 1, then go across 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then in our last stitch, we're going to insert the hook, and pull through, over and pull through, and then I'm going to again have to cut to change color. I got to cut my black tail off, and then go ahead and finish this single crochet with the black yarn, and then pull that main color tail a little tighter to lock, and then lock this in with my black tail here, and do my chain, and then turn it. And then I'm going to pause here so we can talk about, at this point, checking the gauge and weaving in these loose ends as we go. Okay, so first we can check our gauge, which says 8 single crochet should equal 2 inches. So if you get your ruler or measuring tape and just put it down on your work, somewhere kind of in the middle of the row is probably the best place to check it. Because sometimes on the ends you can get a little tight or loose. And then just make sure you have about 8 stitches in 2 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm pretty good there. And then the height, 4 rows should be about 1 inch. So we know that this was rows, 9, 8, and 7. So that's 3 rows. And then an extra row here is 4. So this is 3 rows. And then an extra one, 4, where the black is. So that's about 1 inch high. So the gauge is good. So now we can talk about all these loose ends that we have. And as you can imagine, if you kept working and did not tuck these in, you would have like a bazillion of them. And that would be, I mean, to me, that would mean, really frustrating to have to deal with at the end. So I'd rather just do it as I go. So what you might want to do is first pull this end kind of long so that way you don't worry about pulling a stitch out. And then go ahead and get your tapestry needle and just start with any loose end and thread your needle, and then go ahead and just weave it in. Try to weave it into like the same color section. Obviously you wouldn't want to weave like your main color into the black, you would see it. So just I kind of just do whatever I feel like. Just kind of go under a few stitches. Pull it through, and then sometimes I just go back through again, overlapping the last stitch to kind of lock it in further. Some people like to actually put knots in their work just to make sure it doesn't come out. So you can even, you might want to kind of knot it. Sometimes you can go back under like that. However you like to weave in your ends is fine. So yeah, you could even knot it like this. If you don't mind knots in your work. Some people don't like knots. Some people just like to weave it in. Yeah. Something like that. And then when you think you're good and tucked in, then you can go ahead and snip it pretty close. Okay. And hopefully your scissors are a little sharper than mine. Mine are pretty dull, but you want to definitely try to trim those as close as you can so you can't see them. So I'll go ahead and grab this loose end and start weaving it in. And again, it's however you like to weave in. Work. Obviously, if it's going to be used by maybe a child, if you're doing the child size one, you might want to knot it in case it's going to be used more rough. That's probably good for me. And again, you want to snip it as close as you can to that. So if you have thread snips, that might even work better than scissors. But I'm just going to continue grabbing these loose ends, weaving them in, so that way as we go, it's not a sloppy mess. And it's not so overwhelming at the end, so I have to weave all of those in. And I mean, if you wanted to leave them to the end, you can. You can always pop in a movie and just weave them all. Okay, so I've caught up with weaving in all the loose ends. So I'm ready to begin row 10, which is going to be actually the same thing as row 4. So you're just going to single crochet in each stitch across, chain 1 and turn. So what we're going to be doing is repeating rows 4 through 9, which, as you can see, are these 2 stripes here. It's just going to be a black stripe, a green stripe repeating. For 23 times. You're going to repeat rows 4 through 9 23 times, which I'm going to do off camera. So feel free to rewind the video if you need to and go back to where I started row 4, and that again is going to be the same thing as row 10. So we're going to be repeating 4 through 9 23 times, and that's for the adult scarf. If you're doing the child scarf, you're going to be repeating 4 through 9 only 20 times, because the child size scarf has a total of 129 rows, which ends up being 43 of these colored stripes in all, whereas the adult scarf has 49 alternating stripes, as opposed to 43 for the child. So just pay attention to the numbers in your pattern if you're doing the adult versus the child size. So in the adult pattern, we're going to end up with a total of 147 rows. So again, I'm going to start row 10, which is the same thing as row 4, and I'm going to do that off camera. And again, it's just repeating rows 4 through 9 23 times. So if you have to, rewind the video and just keep following along with rows 4 through 9 23 more times. I thought I'd check back in. I just completed my 27th row here. So here's rows 4 through 9. So I've actually repeated 4 through 9 1, 2, 3 times, as you can see. So 3 repeats of 4 through 9. And as you can see, I have a lot of loose ends already. So this would probably be a good time to start tucking those in, weaving those in, so I'm not left with a daunting task at the very end. And I thought I'd share just one more way that you could actually tuck these in and make sure they're extra secure. Some people like to take these 2 ends, because you should have 2 ends kind of right next to each other in these sections, and you can actually knot them, so you can actually tie them into a knot. So my main color and my black strand here, and then actually tie them into like a tight knot, and it's not real noticeable. So if you don't mind knots, that is a way to get it extra secure. And then you can take your tapestry needle and tuck those in from there, but at least you know it's knotted on the outside, so it is going to stay. And again, you can work with it so it's not as noticeable if, like, you know, the main color is mixed in with on the black stripe. But that's just one way to make sure it's extra secure. I thought I'd share at this point. And then weave it in from there, however you want. It's hard to see the black stitches. And I might just cut mine there now, just for the sake of time. And again, if you have like thread snips or something that can actually do a closer job. My scissors are kind of dull, I apologize. And then I'll take this end. And then take it up through the green so it's not as noticeable. Just tuck it in. And I'll just show you one more here before I go off camera again, after I get this tucked in. Again, you want to try to cut as close as you can to the end. So hopefully your scissors aren't as dull as mine are. And then I'll just show one more, like over here on this side. If you can see, here's 2 we have side by side together, a black strand and my main color strand. And you can just take those and knot them. Or even just tie them once and tuck them in, however you want. But I like to knot it. Make sure it's extra secure. And tuck them in, and I'll just go ahead and tie these other ones off so you can see that they line up like that. So that's just another strategy you can do if you want to make sure they are securely knotted before you weave in your ends. I think I have another one over here. One more here. And this might also be a good time to recheck your gauge, make sure you're not getting too loose or too tight with your stitches. And then just keep on going. And like I said, I'm going to tuck these in now with my tapestry needle before I continue with my next row. But again, you can choose to leave that all till the end if you wish. And I'll see you at about the end of row 147.